So today we want to speak some words about surrender. Surrender as it is. As Srila Prabhupada presented Bhagavad Gita as it is, everything should be as it is. Not as I think it should be or whatever. So it's very important in this case to become aware of surrender as it is. Saranagati, the path of taking proper shelter in the proper direction, in the proper way, and the willingness that is accompanying the conception of surrender. Surrender is not an artificial imposition, but a natural choice that comes as a, again, natural conclusion after entering in touch with a higher reality, if you will. In this case, reality, the beautiful, Sri Krishna. So, surrender has to do, we'll say, with the willingness to know and to know about all the different intricacies of the life in bhakti, all different elements that make the ultimate goal of my life, the willingness to go through each one of them, and in this case as a sadhaka, which is an intermediate stage between being a conditioned soul, a perfected soul. So many things have to be reestablished, unlearned and relearned, and so many details have to be there. And voluntarily, that's the idea. We should be willing to accept all of them one after another, understanding them and putting our own free will in that direction. So our perfection in bhakti will have to do a lot with this, to get familiar in the proper sense of the term with all these different implications that eventually constitute the ultimate goal of life. We won't enter into Golok Vrindavan from one day to another, but it will be a day-to-day kramena, as Srila Jiva Goswami will say, step by step, day after day, insight after insight, that gradually we will become more and more acquainted with the details of our theory, of our discipline, of our ultimate goal, not only in theory, but as well on the level of our in-reach. On the opposite side, we have conceptions such as sahajijism, to be a sahaja, which means to take things cheaply, to be a cheap lover, if you will, to desire love, but without wanting to get acquainted with all the details that need to be in place in order for me to real love. So sahaja is someone who wants to go quickly to the ultimate goal of life, but doesn't want to take the time to learn about all the steps in the ladder to reach that ultimate goal. So in other words, sahaja is someone who is embracing the ultimate goal only in a generic way, in an abstract way, not in the detailed way, that is what really implies that we will be inhabiting that place, basically. So sahajism is not outside of us, again. It's easy to point out, say, oh, there are sahajas, they are one of the apasampradayas, but many of these principles actually may be inhabiting in us, in our still conditioned side, if you will. So we need to get acquainted with that and gradually be willing to reach next stage in bhakti by embracing a more detailed principle and a more detailed principle, all of this by proper guidance, by proper insight. If we hadn't properly concluded, if you will, with our previous stage, we won't have the strength to jump into the next stage and make it sustainable. We won't find that possible. If you're in a certain stage and you find this is impossible for me to sustain, maybe that's not your stage. No, maybe you think that should be, but maybe you belong to some previous stage that you should properly be grounded there and eventually integrate that, transcend that into a higher synthesis and pass to the next step of the ladder. So in conclusion, surrender represents a voluntary exercise, not a forced one. And at each step, each stage of this surrender, we are choosing to belong, to become aware of all the intricacies, in this case of spiritual culture, and gradually we are walking to our ultimate destiny with a big smile in our faces, because we have chosen to do that in that particular way. So our individuality should be properly taken care of in the context of surrender. See you next fortnight.